It's official. Karoline Leavitt has achieved the impossible and stunned the entire country. She just won an earth-shattering $800 million lawsuit against The View, and the media world may never recover from the blow.
Think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
After months of explosive courtroom battles, wild media storms, and frantic scrambling behind closed doors at ABC, Karoline has risen from the chaos stronger than ever. This wasn't just a personal win. It was a full-scale cultural revolution against the arrogance of mainstream television. The once untouchable daytime giants, Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hostin, are now left dazed, humiliated, and scrambling for cover. Their reputations have been ripped apart, their network is reeling, and their cozy world of easy applause has crumbled right before their eyes. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt has rewritten the rule book forever. Her victory is more than just a court case win. It's a thunderous declaration that the era of media elites mocking and smearing those they disagree with is officially over. So how did this stunning moment happen? What exactly did The View say that crossed the line so badly it triggered an $800 million legal hurricane? And how did Karoline turn a few seconds of viral television into the lawsuit of the decade? Buckle up, because this story will leave you speechless. Before we dive into the jaw-dropping details, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and stick around. What you're about to hear might change the way you see television forever. Thank you for subscribing. Now, let's dive deep into the scandal that rocked America to its core. It all started with what seemed like a typical day in the chaotic world of morning television.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
A few smug laughs, a snide glance, and a backhanded insult disguised as casual conversation. But what unfolded next was anything but typical. Karoline Leavitt stepped onto the set fully aware that she was walking into enemy territory. Conservative women on The View are rarely treated fairly, and Karoline knew it better than anyone. But she arrived with sharp style, calm confidence, and a mission to speak real truth to real power. Instead of a fair debate, Karoline walked into a trap set with mockery and venom. The smiles were fake, the laughter was sharp, and the entire setup was dripping with arrogance and contempt. Joy Behar was the first to strike, with a smirk so cold it could freeze fire. Leaning in with fake sweetness, Joy sneered, "Let's be honest, Karoline isn't here for her intellect." The crowd howled, not with humor, but with cruelty. The moment Joy's jab landed, the studio turned hostile. Snickers echoed across the room, and the air grew heavy with ugly glee. The audience wasn't laughing with Karoline, they were laughing at her, and it was brutal. Then came Sunny Hostin, piling on without missing a beat. With a glare that could cut glass, Sunny spat out, "She's just a poster girl for privilege, plain and simple." And the crowd roared again, drunk on the cruelty unfolding live. It didn't stop there. Just when it seemed the disrespect couldn't sink any lower, Whoopi Goldberg leaned back with crossed arms, unleashed a smug grin, and delivered the bombshell insult of the day. Without a trace of shame, she sneered, "Without wokeness, you wouldn't even have a job."
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
It's not good for anyone, and it's not good for poor folks. It is not good for y'all because you become slave fodder. It's not a good thing. It's not good for women because you are now being told and dictated to, and you can't say anything because they, throw you in a jail or whatever.
Boom! That moment hit like a grenade. Clips of the brutal segment exploded across social media, spreading faster than wildfire under hashtags like #Karoline Setup and #Media Bias. Yet even under such a vicious attack, Karoline Leavitt didn't flinch. She didn't rage, she didn't cry. She simply smiled, straightened her blazer, and sipped her water with unshakable grace. When the cameras finally cut to commercial, Karoline made the move that would change everything forever. Calmly but decisively, She reached for her phone and called her legal team. Within hours, the headline screamed across every platform. Karoline Leavitt sues The View for $800 million. ABC executives went into full-blown crisis mode, scrambling to understand how a morning chat show had turned into a legal disaster of historic proportions. But this wasn't just a lawsuit born from hurt feelings. Karoline came armed with devastating evidence, airtight documentation, raw behind-the-scenes footage, and smoking gun communications from The View's own producers. At the heart of the case was a brutal truth. This wasn't an accidental insult or a heat-of-the-moment comment. It was a premeditated takedown, a calculated character assassination, carefully planned behind the scenes to create a viral moment at Karoline's expense. Karoline's legal team wasted no time unleashing a tidal wave of evidence that sent shockwaves through the media world. They submitted transcripts, studio tapes, internal messages, everything needed to reveal The View's cruel little game to the world. Among the most jaw-dropping pieces was a series of internal Slack messages where producers plotted openly to embarrass Karoline. One line stood out in chilling bold letters: "Let joy open with the looks jab. Whoopi will close with something scathing." It was right there in writing. The producers didn't just hope for drama, they planned it, crafted it, and executed it. And they were caught red-handed. ABC executives, who thought they were masters of the game, suddenly found themselves scrambling like amateurs caught in the act. Emergency meetings at ABC were called in a frenzy. Lawyers, PR firms, crisis managers, everyone was dragged into endless late-night strategy sessions as the network's future hung by a thread. It wasn't just bad, it was catastrophic. Insiders whispered that top executives were on the verge of collapse, knowing the damage wasn't just to The View, it was tearing down ABC's entire reputation. Meanwhile, Karoline stayed cool and composed, the eye of the storm she had unleashed. She didn't rant online, didn't gloat. She simply let the truth do the heavy lifting, and the truth was devastating.
President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a threat to democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie. And yes, you will take political violence like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was a Nazi. That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day.
As the case gained momentum, even some of ABC's biggest sponsors started to panic. Major brands began quietly pulling advertising from The View, not wanting their names anywhere near the growing scandal. The mood backstage at The View shifted from smug superiority to full-blown fear. The laughter that had once echoed through the studio was replaced by tense whispers and hurried footsteps. Whoopi Goldberg, usually untouchable and unshakable, suddenly looked rattled. Sources close to the show revealed that Whoopi even tried to reach out behind the scenes, hoping to just talk and avoid the courtroom bloodbath. Joy Behar, who had gleefully thrown the first punch, now found herself desperately backpedaling. She reportedly contacted Karoline's attorneys, offering to issue a public apology, anything to make this nightmare end. Sunny Hostin, the only one with serious legal experience, didn't waste time pretending. She quietly assembled her own legal team, terrified that she might personally face financial ruin if the case went the distance. Karoline's team, however, wasn't interested in backstage apologies or private settlements. They made it crystal clear. This wasn't just about Karoline's honor. It was about exposing a broken system where media elites could destroy reputations with no consequences. ABC's top brass huddled behind closed doors, panicking over what to do next. Whispers of canceling The View entirely began swirling like a tornado in the hallways of the network. One leaked internal memo, stamped urgent, admitted the horrifying truth. "We underestimated this guest. We underestimated this lawsuit. Now we are facing the worst PR crisis in network history." By the time the courtroom showdown finally arrived, the energy in the air was electric. Reporters lined the sidewalks, cameras flashed from every angle, and Karoline Leavitt walked into the building like a force of nature. Wearing a sleek navy suit and an air of pure calm, Karoline didn't need an entourage or a cheering squad. She needed only the truth. And today, the truth was more powerful than ever.
Divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world. You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and sex and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
Inside the courtroom, the contrast was painful to watch. Karoline sat upright, focused, unshaken. Across from her, the once mighty women of The View looked like shadows of their former selves, pale, nervous, and visibly trembling. As opening arguments began, Karoline's team struck like lightning. They played the raw footage of that infamous segment in agonizing slow motion, showing every sneer, every mocking laugh, every cruel smirk that had sparked the lawsuit heard around the world. The courtroom was silent except for the faint gasps of the stunned jury and the occasional shuffle of papers as the truth unfolded in full, brutal color. And then came the bombshell. A massive screen illuminated a message so damning it sucked the air out of the room. We need a viral moment. Karoline's the target today. It wasn't just bad, it was unforgivable. The room seemed frozen in time as the words, "Karoline's the target today," glowed on the giant screen. Jurors exchanged horrified glances, reporters scribbled furiously, and even the judge leaned back in his chair, taking a deep breath at the magnitude of what he was witnessing. Karoline sat still as stone, her face calm, her hands folded neatly on the table. She didn't need to grandstand. The truth was speaking louder than any speech she could ever give. Meanwhile, across the room, Whoopi Goldberg slumped deeper into her seat. Joy Behar avoided all eye contact, and Sunny Hostin looked like she was calculating how much of her savings she might lose. And just when it seemed it couldn't get any worse for The View, the next piece of evidence dropped like a nuclear bomb. A secret voice memo from a giddy producer, recorded after the segment, played over the speakers. Oh, we got what we needed. That casual confession sent another round of gasps through the packed courtroom. The prosecution rested their case with confidence, leaving the defense flailing for excuses that felt thinner and more desperate with every passing minute. No spin, no clever argument could erase what everyone had seen and heard. As closing arguments ended, you could feel the tension cutting through the air like a knife. No one in the building dared to even whisper as the jury filed out to deliberate, their faces stone-cold serious. Hours dragged on like days, but finally the door creaked open. The jury had returned, and the entire nation seemed to hold its breath as the foreman stood, verdict in hand. The judge asked for the decision, and in a voice that would echo across media history, the foreman declared, "On the count of defamation, we find the defendants liable."
I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go.
The words slammed through the courtroom like a lightning strike. And then came the number that would be seared into the memory of everyone watching. The View and ABC were ordered to pay Karoline Leavitt a mind-boggling $800 million in damages. The gallery erupted. Gasps, whispers, stunned disbelief filling every corner of the room. Karoline remained composed even in victory. She simply nodded, whispered her thanks to her legal team, and gracefully rose to leave the courtroom, her dignity and strength radiating like a shield of steel. Outside, the world exploded. Social media platforms crashed under the weight of hashtags like #Karoline Victory, #View Destroyed, and #Media Reckoning. TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Every platform was flooded with reactions, commentary, and celebration. ABC executives fell into full crisis mode, desperately trying to contain the PR inferno they had ignited with their arrogance. Sponsors fled faster than rats from a sinking ship, pulling millions in advertising within hours. Behind the scenes, The View was an absolute disaster zone. Whoopi reportedly refused to return to the studio, Joy disappeared without a word, and Sunny stopped answering calls altogether. Producers scrambled to patch the wreckage, issuing awkward statements about learning opportunities and moving forward, but no one was buying it. The public had made up their mind. The View had crossed a line, and there would be no easy forgiveness. Meanwhile, Karoline's star soared higher than ever before. She became a symbol of courage and accountability in a media landscape that had grown far too smug and reckless for its own good. Merchandise popped up overnight. Shirts and hats emblazoned with slogans like 800 million reasons to think before you speak and Karoline, Queen of Accountability, flew off shelves. Major talk shows, podcasts, and news outlets lined up for interviews, all wanting to hear directly from the woman who took down one of the most powerful media machines in America, and did it with a smile. But Karoline didn't rush into the spotlight. She chose her appearances carefully, speaking not with anger, but with a steady conviction that shook every network executive to their core. In the end, this wasn't just a courtroom win. It was a wake-up call heard around the world. Karoline Leavitt proved once and for all that smearing, mocking, and degrading people for ratings comes with a price, a steep one. And as the dust settled, one truth stood taller than all the broken egos and shattered reputations left in her wake. Accountability had finally returned to American media, and it was Karoline Leavitt who led the charge.